Hi, I'm Caroline Collins from Film Pittsburgh, and welcome to the Pittsburgh Shorts and Script Competition Spotlight Edition. This month, we're kicking off the festival by shining the spotlight on the fascinating documentary Meltdown in Dixie. And I am pleased to say that we have the film's director here with us today, Emily Harrold. Emily, welcome.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. It's great to talk with you. I should actually probably say welcome back, though, shouldn't I? Because you are no stranger to Film Pittsburgh, right? We started showing your work back in 2013, I think, when you were the Silver Prize winner for the Robinson International Short Film Festival, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that, and I got to come to Pittsburgh and screen the film in person, which was amazing.
Fantastic in different times
Different times.
when
Yeah.
it was not a Zoom world. Well, I'm delighted that you're here with us, at least via the little windows. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to jump right in. I love this film. I was just so blown away by it. It's so powerful, so impactful, and so non-judgmental, which a lot of documentaries I think can have a very strong viewpoint. And I thought that yours was very balanced. Can you tell me a little bit about the process?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Orangeburg originally, which is where the film is set, and it's about this giant Confederate flag that's flying outside of an ice cream shop, and it's been there, for almost my entire life. So that corner for me has
Wow.
always been about that flag, and a lot of discomfort about why it's there.
Yeah.
Um, and when I decided to start the film, one of the things that I was really thinking about, especially coming out of the 2016 election,
Mm.
um, were the echo chambers that we build around ourselves,
Yeah.
and how we often only interact with opinions that are the same as ours. And so for this, because it's about such a charged issue about the Confederate flag, I really wanted to push myself outside of my own comfort zone.
Yeah.
And make something that wasn't just gonna, like, preach to the choir, basically.
Mm.
And so that is the reason I reached out to the Sons of Confederate Veterans. I had no idea if they'd be willing to speak with me,
Yeah. Did
but,
you start with them or did you start with the creamery owner?
I kinda started with both at the same time.
Okay.
Um, I figured the ice cream shop would be willing to speak with me. I had a tangential connection to the lawyer, Justin Bamberg, so I reached out to him first.
Great.
But I basically at the same time reached out to the Sons of Confederate Veterans. And Buzz Braxton called me up, and I didn't know who it was. I was like, but he was really open to talk. I think he was like a little like, I don't know what this is about,
Yeah.
who this person is. Um, but from the get-go, I was just like, I'm trying to come to this with as unbiased a viewpoint as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I think with issues like this, we have to try and it's hard. We have to try and step out of our own biases, because otherwise we're just going to continue to exist in these very divided like spaces,
Sure.
and I don't think that, I mean, thus far that's not served us well. So,
That's that is very true. Yeah, we are in a very complicated, to put it mildly, place in our society today. And I guess that's really the work of a documentarian, isn't it? To sort of present an issue with as very little judgment as possible and allow your audience to really draw their own conclusions.
yeah, I mean, I think some documentary filmmakers are more activists. I think it's just
Mm.
the flavor of documentary
Yeah.
filmmaker that I want to be. And I feel like that is the power of documentary film, is to show people, worlds and people and places that they may not be able to go to,
Yeah.
um, and then hopefully let them draw their own conclusions.
Yeah, for sure. I was really particularly struck when the one son of Confederate veterans said the line was something, wasn't a line. His comment was something about how Black people would not be driving BMWs if they had not. My mouth literally dropped open when he said that, and I immediately thought of you interviewing people. And is it hard to not react in the moment when people say things that kind of shocking?
Yes, short, yeah, short word. That, I will say, I think that's a moment I will never forget, when we were filming that and he said that. Um, I didn't know what to do or what to think, but I
Sure.
also knew that I needed to be like a blank piece of paper,
Wow.
so I went into it. Um, and, I think the thing that's tough is, like, making a choice to include that in a film or not, right? Because it's a difficult thing to hear.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think many of us, especially white Americans, want to think that those viewpoints are in the past or
Yeah.
are very marginalized. And I think, unfortunately, that they're not as marginalized as we think they are.
Yeah, your film really broadened or brought that out into the open, I think, in a very stark way. Just to see the support not only for the flag, but for for racism, white supremacy. It was so eye-opening because I think it's easy for people to live in their little bubbles and think, well, I don't know people who feel like that. And boy, you're absolutely right. They're out there.
Yeah, yeah, and it was tough. I mean, it was a tough thing to navigate, and try and just understand why, in Buzz's case, why he feels the way he feels, because
Mm,
I think you need to get to the root of that,
yeah.
to really try and, like, push the conversation forward.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think you uncovered anything new with Buzz especially, or do you think you really just sort of exposed, his general viewpoints?
I think for me, the thing that was, revelatory, which is towards the end of the film, so hopefully everyone's watched it, and I'm
I
not
hope
giving
so.
any
Yes, this
information.
should air after, so feel
Yeah,
free to speak freely.
um, is when he basically admits that he knows that there's a future when Confederate symbols are no longer going to be,
Mhm.
as prominent as they are now. Up until that point, he had always basically refused to accept or imagine that eventuality, and I think he does his best to not think that that is possible, but when he did say he knows there's one day that these symbols are no longer going to be all over the place. And he said that before the summer of 2020. So,
Wow. It was almost like he, had not thought about it until he was asked that question. I
mhm,
mean, he really gave it a long pause where he really thought about it. So I thought that was a fantastic question, just so revelatory because it was you could see him sort of realizing that future, imagining that future was possible, which was really startling.
yeah, but I do think he's gonna do everything in his power to prevent that
Yeah.
as long as possible.
Well, even after this fight, well, the flag is still flying, correct?
It is, yeah.
Wow, yeah, so, I mean, essentially, they probably feel like they won and they
Mhm,
were, validated.
and in many ways, I think actually Buzz and his community do feel like the film is about their success,
Wow,
which is interesting, and for me, it's interesting to see different audiences and what they take from it,
yeah,
and how they react. Uh, but yeah, I mean, this little story, the flag is still flying, so you can say that arguably it was a success for them.
yeah, yeah, although, who knows what the ramifications of the film will be, down the road. And you finished filming when? 2020?
We filmed in a little bit, sort of kind of like the epilogue, of the film in the summer of 2020, when the issue, at least in Orangeburg, was moving more towards the Confederate statue in the center of town.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was good to see that included as well, because that's what people outside of Orangeburg really focus on. I think with Confederate symbols and symbolism are the statues because that was such a big story in the news. So you've obviously shown this for a lot of different audiences. You've been on the festival circuit with it for a while, and can you just give us sort of a little flavor of what you've heard from both sides or
Sure.
from your audience?
Um, I mean, I guess to some extent it is a testament to, and it's nice to hear that, um, people find it really objective and non-judgmental, because again, that was my goal.
Yeah.
Um, and that's been a lot of the response has been that. I think there's been a lot of shock, um, especially in communities that are not in the South.
Mhm.
We premiered the film at the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival in Montana, and there was a lot of audience reaction there, just really shocked.
Mm.
But I think it's hard to know what your how your audience is reacting when we are in this mostly virtual space.
True. Yeah.
Um, so I hope the film is resonating. I just hope. I mean, ultimately, I want it to start a larger conversation
Mhm.
about this issue, because I think a lot of people, and maybe this is just my experience being from South Carolina, but this is not a conversation that people enjoy having.
Right.
And so we avoid it. And I think that's reflective with the local leadership in Orangeburg.
Yeah.
They really didn't want to touch this issue. Um, it was difficult to get an interview with the mayor.
Wow.
Um, and I think it's an avoidance because people are afraid to talk about it. So I'm
Which is really
hopeful.
interesting because the mayor was Black, a couple of the council members as well were Black, and as someone said in the film, it's a majority Black town or city. Um, so I was kind of surprised, I think, that A, that the flag was still flying, and B, that there was that sort of unwillingness to really deal with the issue.
Yeah, and that was part of, the younger activists that you see towards the end of the film are really pushing back against that,
Yeah.
um, because it's a majority African American town. The mayor is a Democrat. It's a
Right.
Democratic stronghold, and yet city leadership has been relatively unwilling to make any sort of large statements
Mm,
about this issue.
yeah.
And I think that goes back to a culture. I mean, you have to remember, like, many Black Americans in the South remember Jim Crow,
Yeah. True.
um, and there's still a fear of expressing how you feel about these issues, because there may be retribution in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And so I think that is really present right under the surface for a
Mm,
lot of people. Also, this idea of not wanting to rock the boat. Like, if we pretend like it's not there, we can just get along.
yeah.
Everything will be fine, and we don't have to
Yeah.
talk about it and deal with it. Um, but I think the younger generation in Orangeburg is really getting tired of that. There's an organization called the Orangeburg Revitalization Coalition, um, that formed in the summer of 2020, and they are working really hard to activate the community around this issue. Natalie Abel, who you see in the film, is one of the main people pushing that, and I'm just really excited about the work that she's doing and the organization is doing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It ended on a very hopeful note with her, so that was really great to see. Excuse me, to see as well, and it was very powerful. I hope that the documentary will help to really further this conversation in Orangeburg and around the whole United States. We're really just so grateful to you for sharing it with us. It's wonderful. We're so excited to share it with our audience. I hope everybody loved it as well. What's next for the film? What's next for you?
So we actually qualified for the Academy Awards. So
Wow.
submitted it to the Academy Awards, which is weird. Um, and they're starting to plan whatever that campaign is going to be. Um, so we'll see. I mean, who knows? There are many films that are submitted, so we'll see
Well,
what
there are
happens.
also many films that aren't able to be submitted. So that's a huge win, and that's so exciting. So hopefully it'll be seen on a much larger scale. But
Yeah,
we had it here first, everyone. So, and if you in our audience want to see it again or want to share it with a friend, you can find a link on filmpittsburgh.org. Emily, thank you. It's been so fun talking with you. Thank you for your work, and I hope we get to see you again.
yeah. Thanks so much, Caroline.
Thanks so much for watching.